Let's talk startup founding in Nigeria. The co-founder and CEO of Nigerian fintech firm PiggyVest, Odunayo Ewini, tweeted an interesting stat about startup fundraising in Nigeria. There's the tweet. The tweet said OPAY, fintech company, is responsible for almost 50% of funding raised in fintech in Nigeria in the past decade, 2010 through to 2019. But OPAY didn't get here till 2018. Very interesting. Adewale Yusuf, who is the founder and publisher of tech media outfit Techpoint Africa, responded to the tweet with a link to Techpoint's West Africa Startup Decade report. And he joins me now to discuss the report further. Adewale, you're very welcome. Good morning to you. How does one, there's your report right there. How does one interpret one company being responsible for almost 50% of fintech funding over 10 years, but not arriving on the scene until the final 2 of those 10 years?
Thank you for having me here. So we should just go into it. When you look at a company like OPAY, you look at the backers, who are the ones backing them. OPAY came into the market aggressively, and last year we've seen a lot of things around all right, all this, all that, a lot of running around because of the money. They have a serious backing with that. So that's really explained why they can why they would dominate up to 50% of the shares, because it's actually about your backings. And as you see, report, when you look at the startup scene in Africa, we've not had much back, especially the local startup compared to a foreign backers and foreign startup like OPAY. So it's as simple as possible. It's just about the backers, who is backing them, the investors and everything.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you for that, Adewale. Okay, sticking with us, we'll stick right there. 81% in the bottom left, 81.3% of investors originated outside Africa. And then it's also in the bottom left, 50.6% of investors originated from the US. Does that continue to speak to the importance of foreign investments so as the tech startups for Nigeria are concerned?
So, I mean, I don't think this should be strange to anyone when you look at it, when you look at the startup space. The people aggressively funding the space are not really Nigerians. And some of these people are not coming at the early stage. They are actually coming at the later stage when the startup needs big round. When you're raising like $1 million, you're raising $2 million, you're raising like $10 million. You definitely have to look outside of Nigeria, outside of your home, West Africa, to raise this fund. So it's not, I think it's as straightforward as that. And people continue to see, we will continue to see, whenever startup wants to raise more money, we'll continue to see foreign investors coming into space to rescue, because these people, they've done a lot of this investment in their own, in US or UK or wherever they are coming from. And this is still the early stage in startup in Africa. This is the early stage in West Africa. So it's...
Okay, so speaking of, can we see a day when local investors might be the majority in what you've just reported?
Yes, I believe so. I believe that there are some investors that's rising up now. I mean, even you might not see it in this, but looking further into the report, we actually have more Nigerians. After US, it's actually Nigerian investors that are second on the list of the people that fund startup in West Africa for the last 10 years. Its startup is actually Nigerian. So Nigerians it's really impressive. I was even shocked when we discovered that. So Nigerians investors are coming up. They are active. They are really active. We have to give them that credit. But when you need strong backings, honestly, you have to go to where the money is.
All right, now President Buhari, he's just approved 10 billion naira to get Nigeria on the path to our first census in about 14, 15 years. The amount of money has been, questioned with respect to priorities, but your team spent about 2 years amassing data for this report that you put out.
Yes.
What do you think of the census, and how important is data gathering?
So, data gathering is very important. When you look at this report, we do a lot of primary data, and primary data is tough, especially in region like Africa and Nigeria, because you have to go off your computer and go to the street, confirm some hidden numbers, because some people just don't like to share numbers. But when you look at it, you said 10 billion naira. 10 billion naira is huge. But when you look at what they want to do, I think I can't defend them or I can't support them. or I can't be against it. It depends on what they want to do. And something like this, they need a lot of offline data, but there are other technologies that could help, and which they can actually embrace, which won't be up to this. They won't be spending this type of amount to get data. So that's just what it is there. It depends on how they are getting this data and how fundamental. I mean, you should know that sensor is fundamental to any country's goal. You need to use it to know the GDP. You need to know it to use it to understand the population growth. Every of these things, it's very important. But how are they going to? The right question should be: are they going to follow the proper channel? Are there other technology that could help them? Which I will say yes, but
we'll see.
I will just say, I guess we'll leave that to them. Yes.
Okay, great stuff. All right, now your report focused on MWAS,
Yes.
which stands for Millionaire West African Startups. Why is that?
So when we started this data, like 2 years plus ago, we asked ourselves the primary question: if we want to focus on all startup, it would be too messed up, in the sense that when you look at reports, when you look at data, if I start a startup in my house and I shut it down in 1 year with my friends, I'm still a startup, you like it or not. But this type of report, at least 1 million, if you've raised up to 1 million, then you've done something. At least you've tried. It's different. It's a different thing in Nigeria. And 5 years ago, raising 1 million, it's a big deal. But right now, startups are going beyond that. You see a lot of people raising 40 million, 20 million, 10 million. So that's why we said, okay, let's look at the last 10 years, but let's use this parameter to actually, so we can have a data that you can make decision with, not just getting random data that will be useless at the end of the day. That's just the idea behind that.
Great, and this is dollars, of course. When you say 1 million,
so sorry, I think in dollars this days.
Right,
so
okay.
$1 million US.
All right, so now you say the MWAS, they raised $1.8 billion over the past decade based on your findings. Do you see that figure rising over the next decade?
Absolutely. Okay. Right now, what a startup raised as a seed round is what other startups are raising as a pre-seed right now. Before you plant an idea, people are dropping money right now. So it's growing. Even if you look at this year, despite COVID, a lot of startups actually raised impressive number. And also we see a lot of industry getting more of this funding, because now investors are having more confidence, and there are data, and that's why this type of report as well will be useful for the next 10 years, which is you will use it to make prediction, you will use it to know what happens. So but startups are going to raise more money, more funds are coming, trust me. Okay. I know some investors that have like $1 billion checks to write.
Indeed. Now, on that same graphic, it does say there in a little circle to the right that there was only one IPO, one MWAS IPO between 2010 and 2019. Which firm was that, and why haven't we seen more?
So it's as simple as that. So this one is Jumia.
Okay.
So
all right, what's
Jumia in this? So okay. Jumia is an e-commerce platform. So, and why? I believe in the next 10 years, we'll see more IPO companies. We will see, and not just local, NC, not just on NSE alone. We are going to see local startups actually being listed in the New York Stock Exchange as well as we're going forward. So okay. I see a lot of them coming next year, but you should give us credit in this industry. It's still early.
Right, it's still
very, very early.
Got you, understood. Okay, so almost 60% of this 1.8 billion went to online retail.
Yes.
Can you see e-commerce being overthrown by another sector in terms of attracting funds anytime soon?
So as much as possible, we all focus. You see a lot of focus on fintech. There are noise, there are bubbles on fintech, but e-commerce is still giant. You understand? Going forward, although it looks like one startup is the one that dominates that, so e-commerce is not one startup you want to start now and people will be crazily excited about it to invest. But we are going to see other niche commerce that are going to come up. But I think fintech is coming that might overthrow this, the way I see fintech coming. and maybe the other industry. But I can predict that fintech will be next.
Okay.
So fintech will be
Well,
next.
yeah. So I'm looking fintech's 19.4%. Okay, still on the same graphic. The report, the green circle at the top right. The report made an interesting point that agriculture only attracted 0.27% of funding over the past decade.
Yes.
How do you interpret that? Is that a value chain challenge? You know, West, as far as our region is concerned, we're heavily involved in agriculture, yet not much of it went to, or funding went there.
Okay, so when you look at the type of agriculture we are doing in Nigeria now, it's so more traditional. So we've not even embraced a lot of technology, and technology investment in this are going to be huge investment, which is going to be led by the local, by the government, either the government or other people coming. And once the governments are not investing in technology for agriculture, it's very hard for other people to go, because it's very difficult to innovate in agriculture, because for you to look at the technology, it takes a lot of investment.
Great stuff.
You understand? It takes a lot of investment to go into that.
All right, Adewale Yusuf, founder, publisher at Techpoint, thank you so much for your insights on your report.